Thank you to Knife Saga for partnering with me to make this video. All right, so this is the set that Knife Saga sent to me. This is an absolutely incredibly beautiful, heavy-duty knife set. They wanted me to test it out, give you guys my thoughts, so we're gonna use it and break down an entire chicken, and we're actually gonna do it in two different ways. So I got two chickens that we're gonna be using for a couple of recipes, and more importantly, this is going to be given away to somebody for the celebration of 100,000 subscribers. So if you haven't yet, make sure to like, subscribe, share this video. The subscribe button should have lit it up down there for you, and you might be able to get yourself a brand new knife set from Knife Saga. In the meantime, I'll put all of their links down below. These things are beautiful and they are very well balanced. So the knife set has 6 steak knives here at the bottom. You have a steel hone or a knife steel. You have a pair of kitchen shears, which are fantastic. And we have all of the standard knives you would see in a knife set. So we have the typical chef's knife. This looks like about an 8-inch chef's knife. You have a Santoku style chef's knife. That's more of the Japanese shape or Asian style shape chef's knife, which has these little divots to keep it from sticking to the food that you're slicing. It's great for veggies or any of that kind of stuff. There is the typical boning carving style knife, which is a longer and thinner blade. That's super helpful, especially for large roasts and cuts of meat. You have a bread knife, which is serrated, and granted, although I don't eat bread, the serration of a bread knife is really good for certain applications that have nothing to do with carbohydrates. So that's a fantastic inclusion as well. And then over here we have a smaller, thin but longer knife. This is great for fillets and trimming different pieces of meat. And we have the standard paring knife, which is one of the 2 knives I'm going to be using to break those chickens down here in just a minute. Knife Saga has a really cool looking set. We're going to see how sharp they are. We're going to see how well they work. I'm going to give you my honest opinion on how well it does, and we're going to send it out to somebody real soon. So let's get to breaking down some chickens to help you make some amazing recipes and save some money by not letting the butcher do it for you. So this is what comes out of the bag when I open up a whole chicken. Now, if you're not breaking down a whole chicken, you're losing out on a lot of different parts of the chicken that you could really enjoy that would be really great for a proper human diet, including the bones we can use to make bone broth, carcass as well. And this also comes with the neck right here and the liver and the gizzard, which we actually include in either the puppy dog's food, or sometimes I'll throw it into the bone broth so we can get all of those minerals as well. So we're going to take everything here, we're going to break it all down, and I'm going to let you see here. So this is the liver, which is sort of smooth and soft looking, extremely high in nutrition. You can cook this down by itself, or you can add this into things. It's fantastic. We also have the gizzard, which you can see it's much firmer than the liver, and it has these kind of striations in various places. You can always tell the gizzard by that. That's very chewy. You can also include that in things, or just cook it into your bone broth to get different minerals from it. It also comes here with the neck, which is basically just fat and some cartilage. There's a little bit of protein in there with the meat, but that kind of cooks off. That's great for adding to your bone broth to get all of the extra flavor. And then of course we have the entire chicken. So on a chicken, there are 8 pieces we want to get off of a whole chicken, and then we have the carcass as well. So you have the drumsticks here. Underneath of the drumsticks on the back side, you have the thigh. You have 2 breasts right here, which include the tenderloin of the breast underneath, and you have the wings. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to take this chicken and break it into those 8 pieces, which we'll use for a chicken chili or chicken stew type recipe. These are the pieces that you would see at a grocery store usually. So let's break that down. All right, so we're going to use the chef's knife to break down these large pieces. You can use a smaller knife, but I find for this, just to get through the big joints, this is the easiest for me. Use what you like, but I recommend a large knife. So when you're breaking down a chicken, you want to move the chicken and make it work for you. Don't sit and work around the chicken like this. Move the chicken. Pick it up, get it in whatever orientation makes it easiest for you. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the wings off of the top because that gets them out of the way so we can work with the breast. So up here at the top of the chicken, you're gonna feel the bone on either side that leads down into the wing. That bone right there, if you grab the wing and you move it around, you can actually feel with your finger down into between where that joint comes together. So that right there is where that chicken wing attaches. So we're gonna take our knife and right there in that little space, we're gonna cut down in. And you can kind of wiggle the knife around and you'll feel where that joint is, and the knife will work its way right through. Once that wing comes free, you can cut through any of the other connective tissue, which is right in there, right next to the joint. So we just cut down through that. The wing is now totally free of the carcass. So right through there is where we cut through the joint. So now all we need to do is come around the other side and we cut the wing free. So there's your drumstick part of the wing, and there's the flat part of the wing, and I always keep the wing tips on there. We can cut those off and add those to bone broth in a minute. So we're gonna find the joint on the second wing, right there. We're gonna cut down through the joint, and be careful not to cut your fingers. Keep your fingers up out of the way. Right down through the joint, snap the wing off just like that. So once the wings are off, I'm gonna go ahead and take the drumstick and the thigh. So this right here is the breast meat. I'm gonna turn this with the back down, and I'm gonna come right here at the top. You have all this loose skin that holds the drum and the breast together right here. So we're gonna come in, I'm gonna cut through that loose skin so I can see what I'm doing, down around the front. Okay, so now you can see the bottom edge of the breast meat here, and you can see the back side of the chicken thigh right down in here. So we're going to cut that free. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the other leg. These Knife Saga knives are extremely sharp right out of the box, by the way. These are doing a great job. Now we're just going to flip the chicken over, breast side down. So the spine runs right here. I'm going to make a slice through the skin right down the spine. It's just going to make it easier for me to get down in here because against the spine, against the thigh, where those two come together on each side, there's a little piece of meat called the oyster. And you can kind of feel it in there. We want to make sure that we don't lose out on that because it's a big piece of really nice soft meat that sits in there. So we're going to cut down through the spine. Then I'm going to cut across where the spine comes down. You can feel it. There's a soft piece right there. I'm going to cut above that. So here's where the soft meat is. I'm going to come up above. And I'm just going to cut through the skin right there because it's going to make it easy for me to now grab this piece of skin here and start to peel that back. And you can see there's the meat starting of the oyster. So we're going to come in under that oyster. See that big chunk of meat right there? Stay right down against the carcass. And then once you get that oyster cut free like that, you're going to grab the leg, push the leg upward. Okay, so grab the drumstick with your thumb wrapped around it. You're going to push upwards, and then we're going to fold that back. It's going to pop that thigh joint out. So we go up and fold that back. See the thigh joint pop up, and then we cut through that connective tissue, and the leg and thigh will come right off. We're going to set this on the tray over here. We'll divide those up in a second. We're going to go ahead and turn the chicken. Remember, make the chicken work for you. Don't work around it. And we're going to do the same thing. So here's that little corner of the skin that we cut. We're going to carve down in there, get that oyster, as much of that as possible. Once we get that free and clear, the leg and the thigh, we're going to pull it up towards the neck and then rotate it backwards, and that little thigh joint is going to pop out right there, and we can cut through that connective tissue. And there's our leg and thigh. So the last thing we need to do before we divide up our leg and thigh over there to give ourselves some room on the cutting board is we need to take the breast off. Now, if you want to leave the bone in the breast, you can absolutely do that. You can go down through the center and you can actually cut through that cartilage and you can have a bone-in breast. I find that to be too much work when I'm trying to cook with it, so I like to take it completely off the bone. It's just personal preference. So we're going to turn the chicken so that the legs, where they would have been, is facing towards me. Right down through the middle here is the breastbone. It's a soft cartilage kind of bone. We're going to slice right down the center of the chicken. We're going to cut through that skin until you can feel the knife down against the breastbone, all the way down. Now what that's going to do is it's going to let you stick your finger in here and you can feel the knife naturally kind of goes off to one side of that bone just a little bit. So the cartilage bone is right here, and the one side of the breast is over here. So I'm going to come right in, I'm going to put the knife against that bone, and I'm going to very carefully slice down through, and you'll feel the knife hit the back of the rib cage in there. So we're going to slice down through. Down here in the bottom, you can kind of see that's bone right there. Okay, so we're going to cut all the way down to the bone, and then turn your knife slightly on an angle, slice along that bone very carefully, little small strokes. You don't have to be in a rush, take your time. That's going to slice the breast off of that bone right there that's behind the breast meat. Then we're going to come up to the top here, and we're going to peel the rest of that, again, staying down against the bone, off, just like that, and that whole breast will come free. So there's one side of the chicken breast. You can peel this skin off if you want to use the skin for something else and have a skinless, boneless chicken breast, or you can leave it on there if you want to include it. I always like to leave it on there unless I have something specific I'm going to use it for. Now, as you run down the breast right here, there might be a little bit of this cartilage comes off of the soft part of the breastbone. If that's there, you can very easily come underneath it with the tip of the knife. If you have a good sharp knife, that'll open it up just like that, and very carefully trim that cartilage off. Now there's two things you can do here. You can either leave this tenderloin right here attached to the breast, but you can see it starts to kind of separate on its own, or you can do what I like to do. You can just take your finger and push gently between the tenderloin and the breast, and that tenderloin will actually peel right off of the breast. And this is what you would generally make something like chicken tenders or something like that with. Now it does have this strip of this connective cartilage type material down through here. I'm going to show you how to get rid of that in a minute. So there's one breast. We're just going to set that over here on the tray. Now I'm going to turn the chicken around. You don't have to, but I find it more comfortable to do this because I'm right-handed. If the bone is here on the right side and the meat is on the left side, I feel like it's easier because the chicken wants to roll, and if it's doing it this way and it's trying to roll this way, I have a hard time getting the knife down underneath of it. So I like to turn the chicken around. I'm going to come in right here. There's that bone. There's that cartilage. You can kind of see it right there. You can see how it rolls over. So on that side right there is the next place we need to trim. So keep your fingers out of the way. Smooth, slow, careful cut, staying right against that bone. And we do the same thing we did on the other side where we go all the way down against that bone, and then we slice underneath. Clean the breast off of the carcass. And then again, there's a little bit of that cartilage right here. Gently trim that right off. The little connective piece that runs through the tenderloin, which lays right here underneath the breast, you can see it just folds back open, no problem. So we can just stick our finger underneath, peel the tenderloin right off the breast, and we'll take care of that connective tissue in a minute. So there's our second chicken breast half. So all we have left here is a chicken carcass. There's really not much meat. There's little bits and pieces, but you could kill yourself trying to trim all of that off to use it for something, and you wouldn't get enough to be worth it. So all of these trimmings and everything else I'm going to trim off here in a moment is all going to go with the carcass onto a tray. I'm going to roast it, and we're going to make bone broth out of it. I'm going to set this over out of the way because we're going to be trimming up the other pieces, but all of the trimmings we don't want on the main pieces go on the tray with the chicken carcass. So let's start with the leg and thigh. So here's our leg and thigh, and you can see the drumstick has this rounded piece of meat which comes down into here where it joins, and then you have the thigh bone this way. So we're going to flip this over on the cut side. It's much easier to see where the bones run by looking at the cut side. So here's your thigh bone and all of the meat that surrounds it, and that comes down. You can articulate the joint right here, and you can actually see where these two muscles come together right here. There's kind of an indentation. That is where our knife is going to go through. So bend this down so that that joint opens up, cut right there through the joint. Okay, and you can really see that joint clearly right there. So there is the end of the thigh bone, and there's the end of the drumstick. So we just very carefully cut through that joint just like that. We lay that down flat once we cut through that joint, right through leg and thigh. Place these on the tray, and we'll do the exact same thing for the second one. So again, there's our cut side. You can see the thigh bone runs down through here. Right there, you can actually feel the indentation between the two. So we're going to hold the leg and thigh up, bend them into sort of a U shape like this. It opens up that joint. Okay, you can feel there's where the joint is. Cut down just far enough so we can find that joint, and then you can lay it back down, go through that joint, leg and thigh. All right, next we're going to trim up the wings. If you want to leave them whole like this, you can totally do that. Leave them this way, eat them just like they are. They're great. But if you want to do more of like a chicken wing, or you want to buy whole wings like this and cut your own, here's how we do that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the tip of the wing, which you can feel that articulation of that joint right here. Same thing, there's an indentation. You can actually push your finger down and feel that indentation when you articulate it. You can feel that move. Now, a chicken wing is much softer and it's much smaller, so you can find that articulation right there, and you can take the knife and you can literally go straight through, just like that. Now, that little wing tip goes over here with the carcass. Go ahead and take off the wing tip of the second one here. Same thing. Find that joint, right through. Now, if you want to leave the wings this way, you totally can, or if you want to break them into the party style wings you see at the store, same thing, we find the next joint. So here is the drumstick style wing piece, here is the flat wing piece. There, when you articulate, is the joint where the two come together. So you can just come into the joint and go straight through. So that's two pieces of that chicken wing. We do the exact same thing. And if you're having trouble, just grab both pieces, put your finger right there, and rotate that back and forth. And you can actually feel from different sides. You can kind of see everything moving, and then you'll be able to actually feel the joint in there where my thumb is at right there. I can feel it actually moving. So I can just stick the knife on it and cut straight down through the joint. All right, the last thing we need to do is this sinew out of the tenderloin. The easiest way to do this is we're going to grab our paring knife, beautiful little paring knife from the Knife Saga set, and we're going to take the tenderloin. Now right here where the sinew starts, where you have that large white piece, we're going to grab that, turn the tenderloin over. Okay, so here's where the sinew starts. Take a paring knife. You're not going to push all the way down. You're going to set the knife gently down against that, and then you're going to push the knife so you're sliding the sharp edge against that sinew all the way down at a 90-degree angle. And watch what that does. There's the entire sinew, and there's a no connective tissue tenderloin. The sinew has great collagen in it, so that goes over here with the carcass. Let's do that again with the second one. So we find the end of the sinew right here. Flip this over. And you can see the top of the tenderloin is very smooth and shiny. And if you flip it over, there's a lot more of a meat fiber texture. You can feel the difference and you can see the difference. So we're going to flip it with that very smooth, shiny side up. Grab onto that sinew very carefully. You can also use like a paper towel or a kitchen towel to help you get a grip on that if you can't quite get a hold of it. Now be careful, don't cut your finger, but the paring knife goes right down against that sinew, and we push and peel that chicken right off of that big long sinew. That goes with the carcass, and there's the prepped tenderloin. All right, so after cleaning up our chicken, we have 2 tenderloins, we have 2 chicken breast pieces, we have 2 drumsticks, we have 2 thighs, 2 wing drums, 2 wing flats, and of course we have our neck bone, which I'm going to add in for our bone broth with the carcass. We have the gizzard, which I'm also going to throw in with that. And we have the liver, which I will also throw in with that. And then that liver and gizzard can either be cut up and added into something we can eat, or you can feed it to the dog or the cat or whatever other animal you want to make sure you feed their proper animal diet, because those organ meats have a lot of nutrition. This is the second way we're going to break down a chicken. Now I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. If you would like more details, I'm going to link a video down below where I did this for an air fryer video. It's the best chicken I've ever eaten in my life, so you can go there for more detail. But let me show you how we debone an entire chicken while keeping it whole, so that you can do the recipe that I'm going to be using this for, which is a chicken ballantine. It's a rolled and stuffed chicken. It's absolutely amazing. Let me show you with a paring knife here from Knife Saga how we can debone an entire chicken and keep it in one piece. First thing we need to do is we need to take this front flat section of the wing off. If you saw how we broke it down earlier, use a paring knife, and we're going to come right down through that joint. Do that to the second wing as well. The next thing we need to do is remove the wishbone, which sits right here on the breast. You can feel how how the bone runs in a V shape right there. We're going to find where those two wishbone pieces are, use a paring knife, and we're going to cut right down on the inside towards the breast meat of that wishbone right there, up towards the front of the breast. Same thing on the other side. And then we're going to reach in around the wishbone, and we're going to peel it out. And that goes on our bone broth tray. Next, we're going to detach this wing bone from the carcass. So we find our joint, come through it. Be careful not to cut through the skin, just cut through connective tissue so that that wing has now come free. Turn the chicken around. We're going to do the same thing to the other side. And this is that same bone we were cutting through in the first way of breaking down a chicken. We're just not cutting all the way through the skin this time, just like that. Now we're going to turn the chicken onto its breast. Here's the spine. We're going to cut all the way down the skin of the spine. Now we're going to grab the wing and we're going to turn our wrist to peel this down until we reveal the oyster. And peel this down away from the carcass, just like taking off its pajamas. And there's that oyster. Come in here with your paring knife. We're going to cut under the oyster. Just like that till the oyster comes free. And then we can grab the breast and go the rest of the way with the oyster. Grab the leg, push up, pop that thigh joint free, and cut through those connective tissues. Now we're going to repeat the same thing on this side. Grab, peel this down away from the carcass. There's the oyster. Cut that free. Grab the leg, up and out. Pop out the joint. Cut through. Then we're going to grab the carcass this way. We're going to come here. Here is the breast meat, which is starting to come off the tenderloins because the tenderloins and the breast tend to peel apart. So we're going to take our fingers, slide down between the breasts and the tenderloin, grab from this side, and we're going to peel breast off the front of the carcass. There's the carcass with the tenderloins still attached, and there is the rest of the chicken. Before we get rid of the carcass, we're going to take our thumb and slide down alongside the bone right here. So this is the cartilage bone from the breast. We're going to go in there with our thumb and we're going to separate the tenderloin from the breastbone, just like that. You don't really even need to use your knife for this part. You can just go in and separate that. You can peel the tenderloin right off like that. Same thing on the other side. And there's our completely cleaned carcass, ready for bone broth. While we've got them right here, we're going to go ahead and take the sinews out of the tenderloins, just like that. All right, so here is our halfway deboned chicken. So now we need to get the leg and the thigh free and clear of all of the bones that are in there. So we're going to turn this over. We're going to come in here to the top of the thigh bone, and I'm just going to clean up around this bone. It kind of has like a circular top, and you can feel where that starts. So be very careful, but just come in here and clean up around the top of this bone. You can see I'm making little short strokes. I have a really nice sharp knife here. Knife Saga sends these very, very sharp, so they work really well right out of the box. Once that bone is clear, so you can get a good grip on it, we're going to take the knife and very carefully scrape down the bone. This is called Frenching the bone. Be careful you don't cut your fingers. Here's the end of the thigh bone and the beginning of the drumstick. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use the knife to clean up around the top part of the leg. And once you can grab the top part of the leg bone, the drumstick right here, we do the same thing and scrape it down. Now we're down here to the knuckle piece of the end of the leg. You can totally take this out, but if you do, and then you try to use this for what I'm going to use it for, which is a chicken ballantine, which is a stuffed chicken, which you guys will definitely want to keep an eye out for that recipe video. If you do that, the leg, the skin will shrink away from it as it cooks. So we actually want to leave that knuckle in place until the chicken is done cooking, and then we cut it off right before we serve. So here's how we're going to do that. We're going to take the drum and push it back through. Push that back through just like that. Pull that back out, lay it down flat so that everything is out of the way. And we're going to take our large chef's knife. This is why you need a good set of knives like Knife Saga has here that are nice and heavy. We're gonna use the dull side, so the flattened back side of the knife blade here. Turn this upside down, and you're gonna hit right there because these chicken bones actually break pretty easily. So you're gonna take the knife and hit right there. Just like that, right on that little ankle area, and you can see that this has now broken free. So I just kind of turn it around, twist it a little bit. Then you can grab the thigh bone here, and that'll pull right out. Now we're gonna do the same thing to this side. All right, y'all, that's how we break down those chickens in 2 different ways. Major shout out to Knife Saga. I'm gonna have a link down below for you guys and a discount code. Make sure to go down there and show Knife Saga some love, and keep an eye on the channel because we're gonna hit 100,000 soon, and this is gonna be a part of a giveaway. More details to come soon. Also keep an eye out for the 2 recipes I'm gonna use this for because they're going to be fantastic. Go buy yourself some whole chickens, break them down, save some money. We're gonna do some amazing things here with Chris Cookin' Nashville. You guys make sure to eat your meat, love your life, use some Knife Saga knives to break down some chickens, and we'll see you back here in the kitchen for more recipes and really cool techniques.